Good evening, good evening. It's always a beautiful night when people come from death to life, isn't it? It's a great night. Well, I want to introduce you to a friend of mine, Compassion International, if you're not familiar with it, I believe is the best global disciple-making model in the world. My wife and I sponsor 4 children, and we get every year to have some of them live in our house. Now, not the little ones, we get to see them when they're kind of grown up a little bit, and tonight you get the privilege of meeting Nelly, and Nelly is from Kenya, Africa, and she's going to come out here and tell us her story. So if you don't mind, give us your attention, give Nelly your attention, give her a round of applause. Come on out here, Nelly.
Can you imagine growing up in a place where 80% of the people you meet every day are Muslims? I grew up in a place where they are full of Muslims, and prostitution and drug abuse is what goes on a daily basis. I come from a family of 5. I have 3 brothers and 1 sister, and I've been brought up by a single mom. I never had the opportunity to know my father, and growing up it was tough because I never had the opportunity to be just like any other child. At an early age of 6, I was expected to take care of my 2 young brothers as my mom went out to look for something to do just to get the family something to eat at the end of the day. Every day at 6 in the morning, I would walk at least 1 mile to get water for the family. My elder brother never got the opportunity to go to school. Because he worked, he gave his labor in exchange for a place to stay, which was a 10 by 10 room. This is where we called home. It was our bedroom, our sitting room, and everything. At night, we would put our boxes down on the floor and sleep. This was our bed. In the morning, we would roll them up and put them in a corner because we needed the space to do something else. My life and my family had no hope because everyone around me told me that I cannot amount to anything. My family could not be able to afford to take me to school. I had no hope. But at the age of 7 years old, something happened to my life. I was enrolled in the Compassion program with Connie Lenka from California as my sponsor. Life changed. This is where I got my first toothbrush, which I shared with my siblings. Before then, I had not known what it means to have a toothbrush. This is where I got my first Bible. And this Bible was all we had as a family. And my mom and my siblings got the opportunity to know Christ just because I was expected to go to a church that partners with Compassion. And my mom went along with me, and she gave her life to Christ just out of this single Bible that we got. This is when I got my first pair of shoes at the age of 8. And this shoe was meant to be put on Sundays and when I was going to school. My sponsor, Connie Lenka, changed everything that I believed in. She gave me hope when my life was shattered. She gave me an opportunity to dream and to know that I can make it in life. Through her letters, I got so encouraged. My first picture was taken when I was 7 years old. I had brown hair. For me, that was not something beautiful. But when she wrote back to me, she told me that I'm beautiful. She told me that I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. She gave me hope. Every time I wrote a letter to her, she would write back, telling me that I'm bright, that I'm improving every day. Connie Lenka became my best friend. She became a second mom to me. When no one was there to love me and take care of me, she was there. I didn't know her. I didn't know where she comes from. But I knew that there was love that is beyond what I could see. And I realized that it's the love of God that enabled her to show love and care to a child who is in Africa. And as I'm standing in front of you today, I'll be graduating from the university with a degree in sociology and community development as my major. Just because one person believed in me, just because one person gave me hope, I believe that the cycle of poverty in my family and in my life is broken. I have Christ in my life, and she told me that with Christ, nothing is impossible, and I believe it. But as I'm speaking today, there are millions of children out there. There's a child who is eating from a dump site right now. There's a child who has gone to bed hungry. There's a child who doesn't have a place they can call home. There's a child who is sleeping on the floor. There's a child who doesn't know what God is all about. There's a child who needs the gospel. And just the same way Connie Lenka made a difference in my life, all of us have the opportunity to do that. Only if we can be bold enough to share the Christ we have in us with other people out there. Thank you.
Isn't that a beautiful picture tonight? One of the things I don't want us to miss is the fact that her sponsor didn't just feed her. Her sponsor shared Christ with her. So see, the beauty of this is we're just not trying to feed children around the world. There's 6.9 billion people in our world, guys. Over 2 billion of those people live on less than $2 a day. Think about that, less than $2 a day. And somebody came into Nelly's hopeless situation and said, I'm not only going to feed you and put shoes on your feet, I'm going to share the love of Christ with you. See, Scripture is really, really clear on this subject. Scripture after Scripture after Scripture is clear on the subject of taking care of widows and orphans. If the church won't rise up, who will? If the church will not rise up, who will? Tonight, there's over 200 children sitting right over here in the compassion area. People just like Nelly when she was 7 years old. Children right now that need hope. See, the truth is, Nelly was living in poverty, but the beautiful thing is poverty no longer lives in Nelly. She's been set free from that. And tonight, you have the opportunity to set a child free from that. I've asked the Russia Fools guys to come out here, and this is what I want us to realize. We don't just come to a place like this tonight and raise our hands in worship. That's a beautiful thing, and that's what we're going to do, but we also worship with what we do with our lives. We worship by going and picking a child up and saying, hey, I'm going to step into your need, just as Christ stepped into my need. So tonight, as the guys play for us, I want you to do this. Feel free, if you feel led, to just say, hey, Lord, what would you have me do?